Yo, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. I've got guys an update on a major severe weather and tornado outbreak that is expected to slam the central and eastern United States over the next couple of days. We have likely one of the biggest severe weather setups that we've seen in a very, very long time. I've got all the details coming right up. So thank you for joining me here on this Thursday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video as we have a very potent and very dangerous severe weather outbreak looming, and I think that we will have the potential for a significant tornado outbreak as well. We're going to have 2 days back to back of intense severe weather, and we could even see a third day after that. But we're really going to have to break down all these hazards, as this is looking to be a very, very significant and dangerous setup here. So we're going to start out by taking a look at your current radar. As always, you can see we have a couple things going on. Number one, we do have some spotty showers and thunderstorms here across the Ohio Valley. We have been seeing some severe warnings today, really just some strong 60 to 70 mile an hour winds and some isolated small hail. All right, but really nothing too crazy other than that. Maybe a couple pop-up showers and storms, but really the environment is kind of dying out here. But that's not the event that we're talking about now. The next event is the big one that's coming tomorrow. All right. You can see we have a lot of showery activity across portions of the western United States, with even some rain and snow moving across the upper elevations of Arizona and really the desert areas, I should say. But maybe some, mountain peaks out here a little bit farther to the north, into portions of like Nevada, California, and Utah. That's where we could see some more of that wintry precipitation. But everyone else should see mostly rainfall from this system as it gets ready to really strengthen as it injects here across the eastern United States over the next couple of days. So we're going to be moving on here to your alerts, and we're going to start out here in the central United States, where you can see we have a ton of high wind warnings extending all the way down really here from portions of western Nebraska all the way down through western Kansas, eastern Colorado, most of Oklahoma. You got Texas Panhandle, northern western Texas into portions of New Mexico, and then you have a lot of counties currently in southern California, Nevada, Arizona, into more portions of Colorado and into the Dakotas that are currently under wind advisories and high wind watches currently in your brown and tan shades, and then your high wind warnings are in your gold shade right here. So very, very strong winds expected over the next couple of days as your low pressure system and your trough begins to take on that negative tilt. That low pressure system will continue to strengthen, and it will definitely cause a very strong moisture return, and that will increase those wind gusts. And you also will get very strong wind gusts on the backside wrapping around that low pressure system, and we may even see bombogenesis, which basically means that we might end up seeing a bomb cyclone, as this is going to be a very, very strong storm system overall. So there's a lot going into play as to how all this is kind of coming together to be a very, very significant event. Because we also have wind advisory extending all the way into portions of Illinois, into sections of southern Indiana, portions of Kentucky, northern Arkansas, far western Tennessee, and even into portions of Iowa and Missouri. So a lot of areas currently under wind alerts. And then another thing to note is that we were greeted to some winter storm watches this evening across portions of western Minnesota into eastern North Dakota and South Dakota, where we may even see a blizzard threat on the backside, because we are going to see very, very heavy snow. So there is a lot that is kind of a lot of different moving pieces that are kind of going to be happening with this event. But in this video, we're going to be breaking down your severe weather event that we need to talk about over the next couple of days. All right, so we're going to move over here to the HRRR. We're going to give you guys your hour-by-hour outlook for tomorrow. And then towards the end of the video, if you want to skip over towards then, we will break down the current storm predictions and our outlook for these next couple of days. So we started here looking at the HRRR. This is the OOZ overnight run here. So you can see as we get into Friday morning, we don't see much activity, but really as we get into, this is about right around lunchtime, maybe a little bit later than that, we start to see initiation with our storms. You can see we get some showers that pop up down here in Arkansas, all the way down to sections of southern Louisiana, and you can also see more higher up towards our low pressure center. We do get a line of what looks to be a cluster of some supercells, and this will likely be the beginning stages of our eventual derecho. So you can see that all the shower activity continues, and we finally do see an explosive line of thunderstorms here across portions of northern Missouri that extends all the way down to central Missouri. Here you can see a very long little bow segment that we have. This is indicative of very strong outflow winds. We likely will see strong 60 to 70 mile per hour damaging wind gusts already starts to spread through sections of northern and central Missouri. Those straight line winds will definitely cause some significant power outages and even some damage out there. So that's going to be happening as we get into the late afternoon and as we approach the early evening hours. Now, watch as this continues to progress. We see a much more defined and much more organized looking line here with what looks to me like embedded supercells. Like we will see embedded rotation within this line. So anywhere in a portion of northeastern Missouri, I am worried for the possible threat of spin up tornadoes, and I think some of those could be relatively strong, as we will have very very high shear, and also we do have very very steep lapse rates. So that's just going to allow for some spin to kind of happen in the atmosphere there. And you can also see we do have some initiation of supercells down here into portions of Dixie Alley here, south of the Boot Heel, Missouri. You can see across portions of Mississippi, Tennessee, and into Louisiana. We also do have more thunderstorms developing. Now, down further south, we will likely see a little bit of a more favorable storm mode for supercells. And so, if we do see that occur, we may see a little bit of a higher tornado threat develop. And you can see we have full blown supercells as we get through the rest of the night. But it is a very, very loud night to say the least out here in Missouri. We're talking about very, very strong wind gusts, likely over 80 miles per hour possible, I'd say, as this looks to me like a very, very strong bow segment here, very, very strong uh, damaging wind gust producer there. And that, keep in mind, that will have embedded tornadoes with it. So I think microbursts, tornadoes, strong downdrafts, and obviously that derecho potential, which is the straight line damaging winds, that's all going to be on the table. And I think also a little bit farther south, also in the portions of Illinois, if we do see this line eventually kind of break up and kind of show more of a embedded supercell look here, which I think is going to be a possibility. If we do see these embedded supercells kind of break out of this line here, I think we're going to have the potential for a large hail threat into Illinois overnight, and definitely down here into portions of southeastern Missouri. I would watch out for a significant tornado threat. I think this is going to have the potential to produce tornadoes as we get through Friday night and into Saturday morning here. But you can see that our event down farther south really doesn't get going until very, very late. All right, but this is as we're getting really towards the middle of the night, Friday into Saturday. At this point, things are starting to look a little bit less active out here into, like, say Indiana and into portions of western Illinois, but some of that leftover activity could definitely spawn a couple tornadoes and definitely could produce still some damaging wind gusts and isolated small to large hail. But we really do see a lot of supercells start to fire across sections of western Tennessee down into Alabama and into sections of Mississippi there. So obviously, if that happens, really all throughout the day, from the evening on, I think we will have the potential for severe thunderstorms capable of producing tornadoes. Really, once we see that line officially initiate, it really I'd say that the question mark is the timing and the exact strength of those thunderstorms. Because if we do see later initiation, I think that they're going to run out of time to fully develop and mature. So I think if I were giving my best bet of where we're going to see the highest tornado threat, I would say somewhere in here is where we're going to probably see the most spinning area, or the most intense and tight areas of rotation, if that makes sense. So likely, once again, just from what taking away from what we just looked at, the information we just looked at basically shows us where we get a most likely will be a derecho, where we basically just get a very, very strong and widespread line of damaging wind gusts that extends from a very wide area here. So that's going to likely spread all the way from northern and central Missouri and extend all the way out towards Indiana here. So it's going to basically develop right over here, and it's going to travel all this distance here, and it will likely produce straight line damaging winds. And I think embedded tornadoes is going to be a huge problem for these areas as well. And we'll talk about the SBC in a minute, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did get an update and an increase in that tornado potential. All right. So that is going to be tomorrow's outlook. Tomorrow, very very busy day. Tomorrow is going to be a very very active day, and we'll show you why here also as we look at our thermodynamics. We're not done with this breaking down tomorrow's event. I'll show you guys why I do think we're gonna have the present tornado threat. This is as we get into Friday night and into Saturday morning. Look at all this moisture that's starting to really rise up here into portions of Illinois, into Missouri, and even points farther south. I mean, low pressure center is so well defined. There's that negative tilt. This is a very, very textbook storm system here. You're getting dry, cold air blasting through from the west, and then you have this huge surge of moisture that is kind of pulling all this warm and moist air up into the center of that low pressure. So you are seeing very widespread 60-degree dew points in this area. I think anyone with 60-degree dew points is going to have potential for seeing definitely some supercell development, especially where the storm mode is a little bit more on the side of seeing more semi-discrete rather than seeing more of a linear mode. Now, I will say embedded supercells, embedded rotation is going to be a huge problem once again for our folks out here into portions of western Missouri into Illinois and maybe even as far north as southeastern Iowa, because we will see that very high shear overlap the high dew points, and also you're going to have the steep lapse rate. So that's going to allow for the potential to see embedded areas rotation, and it's just not going to. It's going to create a very bad mixture and a bad recipe for severe weather when you have straight line damage wind gusts up to 80. Higher than 80 miles per hour potentially, and also the fact that we could have strong tornadoes. So that's gonna definitely be a big thing we're gonna have to look at. We'll look at it here just for the heck of it. But let's look at our shear here. So I don't know if we can look at this. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. We might not be able to look at this. We can switch this over to the NAM actually. So just give me 1 second, everyone. So yeah, there we go. So if we look at our lapse rates here. So this is basically just going to show us where we have very very strong vorticity, and we're going to have a very strong upper level energy here, mid level energy, and we're also going to have the potential for rotation. And basically, to take away from this is just the areas that have the more steeper lapse rates, where you see that 8.5 towards the 9 values there. All right, that's where we're going to see the potential for rotating or possible areas of rotation within the line. I think that's going to definitely be a possibility over western Missouri into Tennessee. But you get the idea. So I think there will definitely be the possibility of strong tornadoes out into that region. We actually look at the significant tornado parameter here. This is off the latest HRRR. Um, excuse me, this is the same model that we just looked at moments ago, and you can see these STP values definitely start to spike as we get into once again the evening of Friday into the overnight hours here. You can see it gets all the way up to a 5 into southern portions of Missouri, so we can actually click for a sounding here, and you can see that possible hazard type being a PDS tornado. So very favorable sounding here. Very, very, very elongated photograph there. You can see that storm slinky turn at about 73 degrees with that northeast storm motion. And then you can see the effective layer STP at a 6. That is right around the mid to upper level there, if you will. So relatively high and elevated effective layer STP. You have decent surface based cape. So dew point of 61 degrees. This is not a bad sounding, and just I think that just with the STP values we have, and also the photographs that we've been looking at here, I think that this is presenting a pretty decent tornado threat, and it just shows us that the environment is pretty favorable here. But there's another sounding from Arkansas there. So as that line progresses, you will see that the significant tornado parameter values do continue to stay relatively high. I will say though that they do stay relatively low. I mean, they do get elevated out here across portions of Dixie Alley, especially farther south you go. But I will say we cannot rule out a one or two significant to strong tornadoes out in that region, as we do have some kind of slight increases here of STP values, which does signify possible rotation within supercells. So That's kind of what you see here with this little bubbly mark, or a bubbly spot, if you will, out here in western Tennessee. So we take a sounding from right there, and you can see possible hazard type PDS tornadoes, 72 degrees turn storm slinky. There's that very concerning uh, photograph there with that critical angle being at right around 56 degrees there, and then you can see that effective layer STP is at about a 6. So still pretty concerning stuff that far south, and I think that's going to be something we're going to have to watch out for. And then finally, Southern Illinois, we'll take a sounding right into here. So this is another area that I am concerned about. Once again, had possible hazard type PDS tornado, very elongated photographs. So my thoughts on tomorrow. I think we're definitely going to have a pretty significant environment. I think, once again, straight line damaging winds, isolated large hail with the development of those supercells, and then obviously embedded areas of rotation with strong tornadoes possible. That's my take on what we're going to see tomorrow. Now we get into Saturday, all right? This is day 2 of the event. Now you're probably wondering, we get through Friday and we're done, right? The storm moves out, it's quick moving, well, we're done. The thing that we need to talk about, though, is that we're going to get a secondary low pressure system that will form down here, anywhere really around this region. We're going to see that low pressure system eject here across the southern half of the country, and it will bring with it a second surge of moisture. And the fact that that low pressure system is placed so much farther south, that's going to bring a lot more moisture up into Dixie Alley. So Dixie Alley is going to be loaded with moisture, while that trough, the main trough from the storm system from that main surface low, is going to be digging through. So that means that you're going to all of a sudden have recipe for a very significant severe weather setup, because you're going to have obviously the thermodynamics with that moist warm sector, and then you're also going to have the trough obviously bring those very strong kinematics there. So that's what we need to be concerned about here. All right, so we look at the HRRR for as we get into Saturday. Look at Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon. Already starting to see convection still left over from our event on Friday night, and then here comes Saturday morning. All right, Saturday morning is going to be very iffy here. All right, we do see the potential for some convective showers to build across this region as we get into Saturday. Now you're probably thinking, well, this must be storm initiation. Well, no, we're going to get a main line of thunderstorms to develop on the backside here, farther back into Louisiana. That will be our main line of supercells. Okay, do these stabilize the environment, decrease CAPE values, and do we see less breaks in the clouds, therefore seeing less, instability for those thunderstorms? Does that happen due to these showers? That is still a very, very low possibility, but the chance for that happening is there. All right, so this is going to be our only possible saving grace, if I really can give you one here. And we'll talk about why I'm being so kind of, genuine and, so hard on this event in just a second. All right, but we take this out into the rest of Saturday, and there's your storm initiation. Now you're starting to see pretty widespread convection here. Look at all of these supercells here already showing up here on those updraft felicity tracks there. And you can see as these supercells progress, look at this absolutely nasty cluster of supercells. This is a semi-discrete environment. You have multiple rotating supercells. These will be producing tornadoes. I think strong to violent tornadoes are going to be possible. But you have an absolute outbreak of very, very strong supercells. These will be likely capable of producing very large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. And this continues to just absolutely blast through Dixie Alley here. And this goes right through, this rips right through the heart of Mississippi. This goes right into Alabama. And this continues to likely produce very, very strong and mature supercells in that environment. And they continue all the way into Tennessee, where we will likely see a threat for damage, wind gusts, and even more tornadoes as that run ends. But I mean, this is screaming, severe weather outbreak with tornadoes. So this is basically screaming tornado outbreak if you're assuming that the environment will be favorable of producing significant tornadoes, which I will say right now, it will be very favorable for producing significant to potentially strong, maybe even violent tornadoes. That is just because you have a ton of supercells out here that are going to be able to take advantage of this wide open warm sector. So there's a lot that these storms have to do, and that these storms have to play with. So that's really what makes this environment so potent and so dangerous here. But we switch this over to the significant tornado parameter once again here, but this is going to be for Saturday's event. So we look at, down here, also keep in mind for Friday, the STP values will be slightly elevated, especially up the farther north you go into portions of Arkansas. All right, that starts to slowly taper off as we get into early Saturday morning, and then there comes a second moisture return, and boom, all of these are all your supercells that we were talking about earlier on the HRRR that we were just looking at here. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll click for a sounding here. So as soon as we get into the early afternoon and into the around the dinner or the lunchtime time frame, once we get to the peak daytime heating hours, things are going to start to cook out here. And you can see we already have very elevated STP values, already seeing PDS4 soundings here. Look at the effective layer STP, already at a 7, and this is not even close to the peak time frame of this event, as these supercells will continue to mature. So you got to think, with this environment and with that much time for these supercells to mature, I mean, they're a very dangerous situation could play out here. But I mean, I'm afraid every sounding we're going to take out here is going to be PDS tornado, which is pretty wild to see. It's something that you don't see all the time. But I mean, this is a very concerning signal to me from the HRL. I'm going to say right now, this is one of the more aggressive and violent HRRR runs that I've seen in a very long time. But this, I'm telling you right now, what you're seeing here, for those of you that don't understand, well, I'm just going to put it in a way that makes a little bit more sense. This shows a very significant tornado outbreak with strong to violent tornadoes ripping across Alabama and Mississippi Saturday evening into Saturday night. I'm going to say it right now. So that's a very contaminated sounding there, but you can see once again, very elongated photograph, very high effective layer STP. I mean, we were pulling soundings where the effective layer STP was maxed out, which is something that rarely happens at all. So, I mean, it's just not looking good. That's all I got to say for these folks out here. But it will continue likely throughout the rest of the day and throughout the rest of the night. Before we get into Sunday morning, and really very early Sunday morning is when this finally will start to all calm down here. But we're pulling soundings left and right, all PDS tornado. There we go. So this is an example of what I was talking about earlier. All right, so there's the effective layer STP. You can see it maxes out at an 11. All right, this is all the way up to just about a 10 here. You can see our 3 cape is at 107, so very high 3 cape there. And then you can see our surface-based cape just over 1,500 joules per kilogram. So definitely the instability is going to be there. You can see as your height increases, the wind direction and the wind speed will definitely increase, and you can also see that on our skew T here, but you can also see a slight drop off in those dew points, which likely presents a large hail threat. So very steep lapse rates also going on with here. So this is a pretty concerning sounding 67-degree dew point, very moist warm sector, very just tropical conditions, very sticky, PDS4 possible hazard type, very elongated photograph. I mean, there's really nothing that you can point out that's lacking with this sounding. So this is an example of why I think this event is going to be very potent, and I think that this is going to be something that if people mess around with, I mean, we're going to have a very bad outcome. I'm going to say that right now. So what you need to take away from this is that the models are predicting, long tracking supercells capable of producing strong to violent tornadoes throughout the day on Saturday, and they do show on the significant tornado parameter, which is just another way of seeing what the model is showing for those supercells capable of producing significant tornadoes, it shows a very high possibility of that happening somewhere across this region. So, once again, please do not sleep on this event, and this still has a lot of time to change here. But another way to look at it, we can look at the surface-based cape here. So this is going to basically show us how much instability or thunderstorm juice we have in the atmosphere. So this is as we get into Friday's event. You can see we do have a little bit of instability starting to build here with about up to 2,000 joules per kilograms of cape up into this region. I think this will support the threat for, once again, supercells, as we do have a tornado threat present for Friday as well. But this is as we get into Saturday. The second moisture return starting to build. All right, look how high the surface-based cape values have gotten. This has definitely uptrended over the past couple of days. This is now well above 3,000 joules per kilograms, which is very, very high considering we're only in March here. But you can see almost 3,500 joules per kilograms of surface-based cape. Keep in mind, very high 3 cape and very high, very steep lapse rates. So this is gonna support the potential for explosive severe thunderstorms, capable of, once again, producing very, very large hail, likely up to baseball size or even bigger, maybe even up to softball size, and then very strong to violent tornadoes in this environment. So very, very dangerous stuff coming up. So move on to the SPC for the last part of the update. We look at their day 2 outlook. So this is for tomorrow's event. We can see we have a moderate level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather. This is extending from portions of western Illinois through southeastern Iowa, all the way down through all of eastern Missouri and into the very northeastern corner of extreme northeastern Arkansas, extreme western Kentucky, and Tennessee also included in that risk there. So once again, if you're in the red shade, that's a moderate risk. It's level 4 to 5 risk. And then we also do have an enhanced risk, very broad, and down into the orange shade. That's a level 3 to 5 risk. That does extend all the way down to central sections of Mississippi there. So there's Dixie Alley getting in on that event on Friday. So if we take a look, you can see this is driven off by a very, very broad 10% hatch tornado threat, meaning that there is a significant chance, which is basically just showing that there is a 10% or greater probability of an EF2 to EF5 tornado within 25 miles of a given location here. So there's a possibility of a significant tornado within any given location within this 10% hatch threat, and this does go all the way down into Dixie Alley. So that's why we have the potential for seeing supercells capable of producing tornadoes, because the storm mode will be a little bit more favorable for just seeing more widespread rotation, more widespread supercell development. But this is going to be definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next couple of hours, because we will see likely changes to this. And I would not be surprised if they did throw out a 15% hatch, because this would still be a moderate risk if they did that. And I think that things have been uptrending over the past 24 hours, in my opinion. I think it's significantly uptrended. And I think that if they did issue a 15% hatch, it would likely be for something like this. I think that this area would be under the 15% hatch. So there is a lot that's going to come into play here for this event. And we look at our wind threat. And this is what's mainly driving the threat. We have a 45% hatch wind threat. That's in the pink shade. That's going out for sections of western Illinois into eastern Missouri, southeastern Iowa, same region as the moderate risk. You have a 30% hatch threat for the northern portion of that enhanced risk, likely for that derecho threat. And then we do have a 15% hatch threat all the way up back into the lower Midwest there, and then a 5% for the surrounding areas. So if you're wondering why I'm saying there's a derecho threat, well, I'm giving you the reason right here. We have a 45% hatch threat for severe wind gusts on the storm prediction center, basically meaning that there's basically it's very close to basically having a 50-50 shot at seeing wind gusts greater than 50 knots or higher within 25 miles of a given location if in the 45% hatch. So that's how high the chances of seeing damaging wind gusts in that region are. But you can see also our large hail threat is elevated. You can see we have a 30% hatch risk going out for sections of far western Illinois into eastern Missouri and northern Arkansas, as we will have the potential for some supercells down onto the southern extent of our line. So that will be a possibility. And the hatch that does also extend a little bit farther south into Dixie Alley. So that's going to be a possibility again with those supercells as we get into Friday. Once again, separate event from Saturday here. All right. So we look at the wording from the Storm Prediction Center also to show you guys. So that what they're saying for the summer is that a regional outbreak of severe storms is likely over the lower mid Missouri, Mississippi valleys and lower Ohio Valley late Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. Tornadoes, several of which could be strong, widespread damaging wind gusts from 70 to 90 miles per hour, and scattered large hail up to baseball size will be possible. All right, so once again, for those of you that are, wondering why am I calling this possible derecho, I just read it to you guys. That is the Storm Prediction Center specifically saying widespread damaging wind gusts with from 70 to 90 miles per hour and scattered large hail to baseball size will be possible. So that is very, very aggressive wording. And we look at Saturday's outlook and we have another moderate risk. All right, this is going out for sections of western Alabama into central and southern Mississippi, all the way back down into southeastern Louisiana. This is a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk. Once again, that includes New Orleans, Birmingham, Baton Rouge, Montgomery, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama. All right, and you can we also do have an enhanced risk, obviously for the surrounding areas, back into the rest of Dixie Alley and into the Tennessee Valley. And then we have a very broad slight risk for extending all the way up through the Ohio Valley and then all the way up into as far north as western PA. So very, very broad risk there. We have a 45% chance of seeing severe weather within 25 miles of a given location here. That's not a 45% tornado threat. This is a 45% chance of seeing significant severe weather within 25 miles of a given location. Expect changes to this and expect an upgrade. I think we will likely see a high risk become issued, and I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to be a super outbreak, but I'm saying right now this is going to be one of the bigger events we're going to see this year. I'm going to say it. We very rarely see moderate risks during the year. We only usually get a couple, but the fact that we are seeing a day 3 moderate means that there is there is a very incredible just confidence that the Storm Prediction Center has that we will see a very significant severe weather and likely tornado outbreak. But this will likely be upgraded over the next couple of days. Likely by the time this gets to day 1, we will likely see a high risk be introduced somewhere inside this area. So I'm not the Storm Prediction Center, so take this all with a grain of salt, but I think that if I were to draw my high risk, it would be somewhere in here. Now, obviously, this is all going to change, and we're going to see official changes to the forecast, but I think that sometime between now and the next 3 days, we will likely see a high risk get issued here. So this is going to be definitely one of the bigger days that we're going to see this year, and I think this is going to be, if I were to give you guys my thoughts on which day is going to be bigger, tomorrow or Saturday, I think Saturday is going to be the bigger day. So this will likely be driven off by tornadoes, but we'll get more information by the time this gets tomorrow. But their summary for for Saturday says that a severe weather outbreak is expected on Saturday across the central Gulf Coast states and deep south into the Tennessee Valley. Numerous significant tornadoes, so EF2 plus, are possible Saturday afternoon into evening, centered on eastern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Widespread damage, wind swaths, and scattered large hail likely. So very, very, very aggressive wording there from the Storm Prediction Center. And I do think that changes to the forecast will be needed, and they obviously will make those changes, but I think a high risk is very, very likely for this area over the next couple of days, all right? So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for coming to watch. I will see you guys in the next video. So I apologize that it took so long. I just want to say stay safe out there. We will be activating live severe weather coverage for both days, so please be sure to have all notifications turned on. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we will be doing life-saving severe weather coverage with storm chasers in the field, giving us, crucial updates here from the, from what the ground here, showing us what the storms are looking like. So this is going to be a very active 2 days for this channel. This is going to be a very active 2 days for severe weather. So all we need you guys to do is just to stay extra weather aware, and that you guys can stay safe out there. So if I don't give another update, once again, please stay safe. Follow my X account for more info and more updates along the way, and I will see you guys in the next video.